I need a break. What about you? Welcome back to another episode, Trailblazers. I'm Nan, the CSL Trailblazer, episode 85. It's a lesson idea today. I need a break. It's summertime. Your students are feeling the heat. Teachers, if you're doing a summer holiday course, you're feeling the heat too. And remember, we're moving into a different type of teaching and learning in the summer holiday course camp style learning than you have during the school year. And that's what I want to cover today with my lesson idea about taking a break. Vacation, holidays, long weekends, whatever it is for each person, your student, teenager or adult, it doesn't matter. I got some ideas that you can incorporate in one of those generic travel lessons that you find in every course book. This is not going to be generic. I'm going to give you some vocabulary that you can use and your students will want to talk about, because all my episodes are about getting your students talking, because that's what they're there to do, especially now in the summer. They need a break from the exercises, and I'm going to deliver you that break right now, right after this brief intro message. See you in a second. Alright, and welcome back. Let's get right into it without further ado. Start with brainstorming on this topic, because your students should know quite a lot, and don't be surprised either. But just start with the basic question: what kind of breaks do they prefer? And they're not going to look at you thinking, what? What does that mean? An all-inclusive? Hotel? That's probably all they'll say. But get that ball rolling by maybe putting up the different types of breaks people can go on. Concentrate on the word break, because for everybody it's different. Sometimes it's a long weekend, as I said already in the intro, or longer. And for summertime, it can be. But concentrate on the types. So activity or sport break. Relax and comfort. Sightseeing and the city, right? Camping and with an adventure in it, okay? Going abroad to a foreign country. Maybe it's an all-inclusive hotel, as we've already mentioned, or it's backpacking, which is also adventurous, but in a little bit of a different sense, okay? So right there's a nice list of different types of vacation, holiday / breaks that people go on. Get your students talking about preferences or advantages and disadvantages to get the ball rolling and get the topic really heating up, okay? Everybody has different types that they like, maybe multiple ones. You can do a nice little survey where you ask what people like. It can be used as an icebreaker if it's one of the first lessons, so students get to know each other, especially in a summer holiday course. You see what I'm saying? Rock and roll. Let's move on to the next part of this, which is accommodation. Nowadays, it's not so simple, is it? It's not just hotels. There's also hostels. There's also glamping. There's also camping. There's organized camping. There's free camping out in the wilderness in a remote location. All right? There's also bed and breakfasts in English, and we can't forget about the Airbnb, which is slowly becoming a very popular way of finding accommodation when we travel. And the self-contained apartment, explain that language to them. They might not be familiar with it. What does it mean? Did I miss anything? I think that's all. Maybe a shelter. For when we're trekking or hiking in the wilderness, we stay in shelters. That can be our accommodation. You might have to book it or reserve it, but usually you can just show up, drop that sleeping bag on the ground somewhere, ba-boom, you're sleeping. All right? So get them to tell you all the different kinds of accommodation, and then talk about, again, advantages and disadvantages of each. Right? This can be one where a lot of language comes up, and again, you're encouraging your students to speak and share from their own experience. Probably all of them have stayed in a variety of accommodation. There's going to be pros and cons, benefits and drawbacks. Share that vocabulary when talking about it and making the comparison. Let's move on to the next stage then, and here you can talk about criteria, vocabulary word, ding, ding. Otherwise, we can say it as what your students take into consideration when going on a trip, and here, or on taking a break. And here, with the criteria, you can talk about things that are maybe less discussed in the book, such as like remoteness and isolation of the location, proximity, how far or close is it to the airport or to the places that you want to see or visit. Proximity, nice vocabulary word. Party or social options, maybe they're going for specifically that. Are those places available to them? How important are they when making a decision about where to go? Excuse me. Finally, what about your carbon footprint? More and more, depending on the culture or the nation, the carbon footprint is something families and people are taking into consideration when going somewhere. I don't know, that's a tough question. Should be interesting to see their reaction once you introduce it. And let's not forget also access to the beach. It is the summertime. Do you have access to the beach? And we can't leave it without saying something about it. Shopping. Yeah, you know how they love it. Everybody does. Let's not pretend otherwise. All those things, are they criteria when choosing a destination? Get them talking. There you go. Those 3 stages of talking right there with brainstorming and vocabulary. Boom. You've covered a lot of vocabulary and you've just given them a good 30 minutes of speaking and a way of getting to know each other. Finally, oh no, actually I shouldn't say that. There's two parts to the finally, but let's talk about features. When you go on the Airbnb site, when you're looking for the criteria about the accommodation specifically, what features are going to be the most important for your students? Wi-Fi, parking spots. What else is there? Full kitchen. Do they want to cook? What else is there? Coffee machine or other appliances that they would like to be available in the spot. Air conditioning, of course. Get them to tell you all these things. A gym if it's in a hotel, because Airbnb, I doubt they're going to provide it. Maybe a TV. Maybe the TV needs to have a streaming service like Netflix. Who knows? All of these things are going to be maybe potential features that your students will care about or their families care about. Get them talking, make the list on the board, and then share which ones are the most important. Maybe put some stars right next to them, just to make it a little bit more fun. Now to my second part of the finally is this is an opportunity for a lesson idea like this one where you can cover the language used for giving recommendations, okay? Because usually when we take a break, we listen to the recommendations of our friends, family, and others that we know, colleagues from work, okay? Synonyms for getting recommendations. Here we go, real quick. Recommend, advise, advocate, promote, and urge. Those are great synonym words. Your students don't use all of them. Encourage them in this lesson to use them, to talk about places that they would recommend, advise, promote, advocate. Depending on if you're a travel blogger, you might be promoting it or advocating it. That's the difference in meaning a little bit, okay? And if you really recommend it, you can urge them or strongly recommend or advise them to visit, go, or do something, okay? So there is a language spot, functional language that you can include. Depending on the level, you might have to cover a little bit the structures that are followed by these words, but it will really depend. 2 questions to finish up this lesson idea. What are people's expectations when they're traveling? You can throw that question in as a feedback question, and it leads very nicely into a follow-up lesson. Are you ready for it? Planning. How important is planning when going on a vacation or taking a break? You can nicely go into the follow-up lesson about plans, and especially now after the pandemic, during the pandemic, coronavirus stuff, planning is something that probably people are going to be feeling very strongly about because some like to be spontaneous. You can compare. That's the follow-up lesson to this one. I hope you find it valuable. Ba-boom, I'm done. I tried to keep it as short as possible. If I talk too fast, I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to fit it all in. Now, stay tuned next week for another episode. Be proud teachers, build that momentum, make something happen. And I'll be back here next week with another lesson idea. But don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the proverb series. That's going to return too. Want more? Newsletter link, bi-weekly. I share all my ideas, teacher tips, and more lessons. Sign up so you don't miss anything. You know what's going on. I'll see you very soon. Take care.